I want to see this one. They talking about, and I don't never go live unless it's a what's the name. I only stream on Twitch, and I'm about to go live on Twitch in a second, but I just want to see what's gonna pop up. Nobody don't. I want it for myself. 25 lost. Oh, I thought it said grandparents. I didn't know it's African American. I thought it said 25 lost recipes from grandparents. And that's like, do the new generation females, do they know how to cook like our grandparents, man? Like, do they? Are they cooking good as? Is your chick cooking as good as your grandparents used to cook? Or do still cook if they still alive? Um, if any of my exes ever cooked as good as my grandmother, I'm gonna say as good as my grandmother. I had one that could cook though. I ain't gonna care. And I don't lie about food, because I don't care we dating. If you can't cook, I'm telling you. That's one thing I ain't keeping about, because I ain't going to eat it. That's one thing I'm mad picky with my food, and if it's nasty, I'm not eating it. So if you can't cook, and you cook for me, I'm going to tell you, because I ain't going to say don't cook for me, because you might cook. Like, and I ain't gonna cake like, oh, if my grandmother couldn't cook, I would say she used to could throw down. She was from down south, and like, and I ain't calling no down south fake, but I'm talking about down south, dirt roads down south she was from. And she could cook. One grandmother could throw down, like R.P. She could throw down, bro. And I had one that used to cook. But I'm wondering, like, is it safe? Forgotten? Like lost recipes. That's saying like the new generation women ain't cooking like our grandparents and our great grandparents used to cook, man. Yeah, I'm halfway believing that. I'm halfway believing that. I'm halfway believing that. I'm halfway believing that, man. And we gonna get into it. Come on, Jason. I don't know. No political shit on my channel. I don't really know what's going on. I mean, I do, but I don't.
To feed large households. Pork chops were often considered a treat.
Oh, the thing got started already. Starfulado.
They told you soul food was just fried chicken and mac and cheese, but they never told you about the oxtails simmered for hours on Sunday afternoon. Some of these dishes were passed down quietly, without cookbooks, because for generations, black families weren't just cooking, they were preserving survival in secret. These recipes are living pieces of African American history, rich, resourceful, and hidden in
I didn't know they said African American. I just thought they said
You'll wonder why no one told you sooner. 1. Smothered pork chops.
Now,
This
Starful
is a
Law.
hallmark of Southern black cooking, not just for its flavor, but for what it represented. Turning
I'm about to say this ain't part of it. Now, I'm Muslim. I do not eat pork. However, I wasn't raised Muslim, so like I said, my grandmother was from down south. So you know, I have ate it before, but I haven't ate that junk since like the early 2000s. Literally, I have not touched pork since like the early 2000s. Literally, like 2000. Literally, like maybe like 2002 or something like that. Real talk. Yeah, like 2001, 2002, I have not touched pork, man. However, I was raised off it. I was young, I couldn't tell her. Man, I'm not eating that. She was cooking it, I was eating it. And at the time, I thought it was delicious. Starful though. It's not good for you. I mean, but let's get into it.
ingredients into something luxurious. During the Great Migration, many black families brought with them the practice of stretching ingredients to feed large households. Pork chops were often considered a treat, especially bone-in cuts that could be bought cheaply at the butcher or bartered for at community markets. The technique was brilliant in its simplicity. First, the chops were seasoned with salt, black pepper, paprika, garlic powder, and maybe a pinch of cayenne, dredged in flour and fried until golden, then removed while the pan was still sizzling. Into that same skillet went sliced onions, sometimes green bell peppers, deglazed with broth or water, and thickened into a rich golden brown gravy. But the magic? That came in the smothering. The pork chops were returned to the skillet, submerged in the gravy, and slow cooked on low.
Now, lamb chops is a great replacement. I'm gonna keep it real. We ain't gonna act like everybody be talking about, nah, I want no lamb chops, bruh. Bruh, them shits taste good. And it's a good replacement. I don't eat pork no more. Like I said, I haven't ate it since like 2001, 2002. However, I was raised, my grandmother from down south, so I was raised on pork. Lamb chops are a great replacement.
It with a depth of flavor that no seasoning packet could match.
And
Served with white rice, cabbage, or buttery mashed potatoes, this dish fed the body. But more importantly, it told the story of generations who turned scraps into soul.
Facts, Grandma did.
Collard greens with smoked turkey necks. Long before health blogs praised
that's what I'm saying. Is they saying the new generation women don't cook like our parents and grandparents used to? Like, are we saying this, yo? Oh, never.
Black families were simmering pots of collards as both sustenance and celebration. This recipe traces its roots back to West Africa, where leafy greens were essential to daily diets and often boiled with spices and meats. In the American South, collards became more than a side dish. They were cultural staples, served during Sunday dinners, funerals, family reunions, and especially on New Year's Day, when greens symbolized money and prosperity. Traditionally, collards were cooked with ham hocks, fatback, or neck bones. But in more health-conscious generations, smoked turkey necks
do with the smoked turkey neck. You hear me?
Offering that same smoky, salty depth without the excess fat. The greens were soaked and rinsed several times. Any true Southern cook will tell you, grit has.
I'm telling you, boy, my grandma used to be in there washing them greens, bro. Talking about washing them joints too, like in there, like massive. You heard him just say several times the greens were in the wash several times. All right, let's talk.
Greens, then chopped and added to a large stock pot filled with turkey necks, onions, garlic, red pepper flakes, vinegar, and sometimes a splash of hot sauce. They were simmered for hours, not minutes, until the greens became tender and dark, soaking up the broth known affectionately as pot liquor. That broth alone could nourish you. Elders would sop it up with cornbread or save it for sipping. Collard greens weren't just food. They were medicine, memory, and tradition passed through the hands of women who remembered slavery only one generation removed. 3. Sweet potato pie.
Woo!
No Thanksgiving table in a black household was complete without sweet potato pie.
Yeah. I used to have her cook me a whole pie. Well, boy, like my grandmother raised me. I grew up calling her mommy. Like, Mom, you can make me my own pie. Like, please, I ate my own sweet potato pie. Nah, keeping it real, it wasn't even sweet potato pie. I ain't have her cooking me my own one at the time. I used to eat some because she was definitely cooking some. But mine was cherry pie. She used to make sure she cooked me a cherry pie, right? And then it wasn't just the crust and the cherries go inside. She used to slice up another crust with some layers and throw them across one layer, like in the shape of a fence, and throw them across on another.
And it was more than dessert. It was the signature of the matriarch. In many families, only one person made the pie, and it wasn't up for debate. You didn't just make sweet potato pie, you inherited it. Brought over from West Africa, sweet potatoes were a staple of the transatlantic foodways. Unlike pumpkin pie, which dominated white American kitchens, sweet potato pie used ingredients readily available in the South.
He said pumpkin pie dominated.
Flavor preferences.
He is wild.
Spice, for saying that. The sweet potatoes were roasted, never boiled. Roasting concentrated the sugars, mashed smooth, then mixed with eggs, evaporated milk, brown sugar, vanilla, nutmeg, cinnamon,
Boy, giving
and
it
just
sauce,
a
ain't
lemon
he?
or orange zest. The crust could be homemade or store-bought, but it had to be buttery and flaky. No shortcuts. Some pies were topped with marshmallows or pecan crumbles in newer generations, but traditionally the top was left plain, glossy
Facts.
from the egg and sugar blend. The first slice always went to the elder. No one
Facts.
dared ask for
Dang, he
second
got
until
the
everyone had
sauce.
been served. It wasn't just pie, it was praise, legacy, and love served cold the next morning with coffee
R.I.P., man. I
and
miss
stories from the past. 4. Fried catfish. If there was ever a
Damn.
unifier at black family reunion,
No, I ain't gonna cap. Growing up, she cooked catfish heavy, but I didn't eat catfish. I only ate whiting, yo. Like with the greens, she used to cook some other kind of greens. Turnip greens and mustard greens. She used to be like, however, she used to always have the collard because I didn't eat the other two. Now I wish I would have tried them though, because I don't even, you not even hearing about, no, that's what I'm saying. Is it really real? Because this ain't, it's saying lost recipes. Are we saying that these new generation women, girls ain't cooking like our grandparents and great grandparents used to cook? Is this the real reality? And sadly, it is. You might catch her. You might catch you one because she got the sauce from her grandmother because she might have been raised around her or raised by her. Feel me? But if you ain't have a girl that still didn't have that grandmama from the south that was around, she ain't know how to cook. I'm keeping it a being with you. She ain't learned it from her mother unless her mama learned it from her mama. And you know a lot of them ain't get that sauce from their mama. Feel me? Like, I happened to be raised by my grandmother, man. And I used to be in that kitchen watching while she was cooking everything, bro. Like, if I had to get down, bro, I could cook everything I need to eat, bro. Some collard greens, that fish, everything, bro. Like, dang.
it was the fish fry. And no fish was more beloved or more deeply rooted in African American culinary tradition than fried catfish.
Oh, she used to say it with too many bones for me because I was
Rivers
younger.
and creeks, cheap to catch and hard to overcook, making it the perfect protein for families trying to stretch $1 while still making something delicious. Fried catfish was more than a meal. It was an event. Families would gather outside with picnic tables, aluminum pans, gallon jugs of sweet tea, and tubs of corn.
Talk that sweet
The fish was
tea.
often marinated briefly
Never.
in buttermilk, which tenderized the flesh and reduced the muddy flavor catfish sometimes carried. Then it was dredged in a seasoned cornmeal blend, usually mixed with cayenne, garlic powder, and a bit of paprika. Dropped into hot peanut oil, the fillets would bubble and
Peanut
crisp,
oil. He got
forming a
the
golden
sauce.
shell that snapped with each bite.
He got the
It was
sauce.
served with hot sauce, always krill or
Talk that
Louisiana
hot sauce.
brand, a slice of white bread, and maybe a side of coleslaw or baked beans. Some added lemon wedges, others a tartar sauce their auntie swore by.
Talk that
And
tartar
the
sauce.
Eaten corn on white bread the next day with mustard. Fried catfish is a dish that turns survival into celebration. A taste of community.
And then the crazy part is, we ain't even know they was doing that. We ain't know it was like survival. Like, we just thought they cooking up something great. Like, feel me? And they turned nothing into something, bro. Real talk, man. That's why I wish I could, like, my grandmother raised me. I wish I could go back and tell her so much, man. Like, word, bro. Like I said, I grew up calling my grandmother mom. That's who raised me, man. And I miss my mom so much, bro. Like, word, yeah. This don't do nothing but give me mad memories, bro. Like, and I'm keep asking the question: is this really saying that the new women don't? These junks are saying lost recipes. Why is it lost?
5.
Why these?
Hoppin' John. This dish carries African spiritual symbolism and Southern practicality in every
I didn't
spoonful.
eat that.
A mix of black-eyed peas,
I hated.
rice,
Oh, I
and
hated
pork,
when she cooked
often
them. I didn't
bacon
eat
or
those
ham
neither.
hock. Hoppin' John was a dish of luck, legacy, and nourishment.
I ain't gonna lie, I never even heard of this dish, Hoppin'
Senegalese and
John.
Gullah food traditions, where
Well,
rice
she used
and
to cook them
beans were
black-eyed
already
peas and
dietary
rice.
staples. In the antebellum South, enslaved Africans adapted these traditions using the ingredients available on plantations: black-eyed peas grown in gardens, rice from the Carolina coast, and pork scraps from the kitchen. Hoppin' John was eaten on New Year's Day for good luck, with the peas symbolizing coins and greens served alongside, representing paper money. But it wasn't just a holiday meal, it was everyday ingenuity. The rice and peas stretched to feed large families, and the pork added just enough richness to keep spirits high, even when pockets were empty. Seasonings varied by region, but almost always included onion, garlic, and bay leaf. Some added vinegar, hot sauce, or smoked paprika for depth.
He ain't let go of that hot sauce. I love my hot sauce.
Instead, they were reincarnated the next day as Skippin' Jenny, a sign of frugality, which in itself was a virtue to be celebrated. 6. Hoe cakes. At first glance, they look like simple cornmeal pancakes, but hoe cakes carry a name and a legacy.
You gotta do your homework, man. What do he know about this?
And invention. The term hoe cake comes from the method once used to cook them. Field workers, often enslaved, would place the batter on the flat side of a hoe and cook it over an open flame in the fields. When there was no stove, no skillet, no luxury, just grit and fire, this humble cake.
That's my grandmama pan right there, bro. You gotta have that, that cast iron. The women don't even be having that pan in the house no more. They saying lost recipes. Are the women not cooking like our grandparents used to cook, bro? And I'm sad to say, no, you might find you one. Because they grandmama was around when they was young. Oh, what the hell just do? No, I gotta watch what's the name for 3 seconds. Yo, yeah, it's crazy, bro. Like, cause you really miss these meals, man.
Large households. Pork chop.
I was past that. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy to even, on the hoe cakes. It's crazy.
No luxury, just grit and fire. This humble cake kept people going. Made from cornmeal, water, salt, and sometimes lard or bacon grease, hoe cakes were economical and filling.
No pancake batter. You hear him? And he know. Like,
the recipe stayed, but it evolved. Some versions added buttermilk or eggs, making them fluffier and more tender.
Facts.
In rural southern kitchens, hoe cakes were often served alongside greens, beans, or stews, used like bread to scoop up the juices. They were passed down without fanfare.
And he is not cabbing, because my mom, who was my grandmother, I was raised calling her mom. She used to stay eating with her hands, boy, like sopping anything up on that plate.
Hoe cakes weren't just breakfast. They were proof that even with the barest means, black hands could create something warm, nourishing, and deeply rooted in tradition. 7. Ham hocks and lima beans.
Lima beans, so that's the real name, lima beans.
Transforming the least desirable ingredients into a pot of gold. Ham hocks, the joint between the foot and leg of the pig.
Like I said, starfula, I don't eat pork no more. This is like 2001, 2002. I was raised in the house with a down south grandmama, so.
Were rarely eaten by the wealthy, but for African Americans, especially during the Jim Crow era, these discarded cuts became treasure. Smoked and slow cooked, a ham hock could infuse a pot of beans with a depth of flavor that no seasoning blend could match. Lima beans, introduced to the Americas through indigenous and African agricultural exchange, were a cheap and filling staple in black communities. When simmered low and slow with ham hocks, onions, garlic, and pepper, they absorbed every bit of the smoky broth.
There was a few things she couldn't get me to eat, and this was one of them. I ain't
Making every
gonna lie.
bite rich and savory. This dish wasn't fancy. It wasn't served at banquets. But in black households,
She's
especially during
definitely
the
cooking.
1940s to 60s, it was a weeknight miracle.
And she was born in
Stretching
the
leftovers
40s,
into a
yo.
full
That's
meal.
how I know my mama was
Children often remembered
exclusive,
the
boy.
rhythmic bubbling sound coming from the stove and the smell that clung to the air long after dinner ended. Leftovers were even better the next day, served
No
over rice or
cap.
sopped up with cornbread. To this day, some elders still say, if you know how to season beans right, you'll never go hungry. 8.
He talking
Gullah
that
red
stuff.
rice. If soul food had an anthem, Gullah red rice might be the heartbeat. Born from the rich coastal cultures of South Carolina and Georgia, this dish
That's
was
where
a
my
spiritual
grandma
cousin
from
to
Georgia,
African
boy.
Gullah life.
He's talking
The
everything.
Gullah Geechee people,
That bitch used to
descendants of
cook. I
enslaved
eat
Africans who
everything.
lived in relative
Everything
isolation
used
on
to
the
look
Sea
good to me.
Islands, preserved more African customs, language, and culinary tradition than almost any other black American group. Red rice wasn't just a side, it was a cultural bridge.
Rocky, then you throw the hot sauce in there with it. Ooh. And I feel sorry for anybody who watched this and ain't get to enjoy none of this, yo. And anybody in the youth who will never taste this food, man. Sadly, because their parents don't know. Like it's saying, lost recipes, bro. And I grew up off eating all of this, bro. Like, at least she cooked all of it. Like I said, she couldn't get me to eat a few things, like the mustard greens and the turnip greens. I didn't eat. I ate the collard greens though. None of the beans I used to eat. Um, Except for the ones with the beans and franks with the hot dogs, them beans. But the lima beans and black eyed peas, I didn't eat them joints, man. And crazy part is, I never even tasted the stuff I didn't like. I used to just say, nah, I don't want to eat that. That don't look good to me. And she used to stay being, no, man, you got to try it. And man, stuff that I didn't eat then, I done tried now. And I actually like it. Like, yo, I was bugging.
The dish starts with long grain rice sauteed in bacon fat or oil with onions, bell peppers, garlic, and crushed tomatoes. Spices like thyme, cayenne, and sometimes celery seed give it boldness. Smoked sausage, chicken gizzards, or shrimp
Look, they don't
were
even
often
know
added
about
if they
chicken
were
gizzards. That's the
available.
crazy
But
part.
even without meat, the dish was rich, tangy, and deeply satisfying. In Gullah homes, red rice was often cooked for Sunday dinners, birthdays, or church potlucks. The tomato base symbolized wealth
Sunday,
and blessing.
boy.
Some elders would say that if your red rice came out too dry or too mushy, you weren't paying attention because this dish demanded care. You had to feel it. In the 21st
That's why I
century,
say, bro, you know when something is great, bro. They used to cook with love, yo. Man, it is so different, bro. Like, this young man, I'm kind of mad I'm even watching it because it's making me miss my mama, man. I'm telling you, yo, I love my grandmother, man. Like,
red rice is finally getting the recognition it deserves. But in truth, it never disappeared. It just stayed close to the heart, passed down quietly by those who never forgot where they came from. 9. Chicken and dumplings. This dish was born out of necessity but perfected through care.
Didn't
In
taste
many
it.
black
I just didn't
households,
want to eat it.
especially during the Depression and wartime eras, a single chicken had to stretch. Chicken and dumplings was how mothers and grandmothers made it happen. First, a whole chicken was boiled with onion, celery, garlic, bay leaf, and black pepper until tender. The meat was pulled from
End
the
up eating
bones
it
and
later
thrown
on, and
in
it's
the
just
pot.
rocking
The
though.
broth, already rich from fat and flavor, became the base for the dumplings, a mix of flour, fat, usually shortening or lard, and a bit of milk or water. Rolled thin and cut into strips or rounds, the dumplings were added to the pot and simmered until soft but firm. Some families preferred slick dumplings, wide and flat. Others liked them puffed up and biscuit-like. No matter the shape, the result was the same: warm, filling, and deeply comforting. This wasn't restaurant food, it was grief food, cold weather food, celebration food, food that wrapped around the soul. Eaten with a big spoon and a bigger smile, chicken and dumplings wasn't about luxury. It was about making sure everyone at the table had something
Something
hot,
to eat,
hearty,
bro.
and
For
made from
real,
home.
bro.
10. molasses gingerbread. Before white sugar became widely available or affordable, black families used molasses as the sweetener of choice. It was
That's
cheaper,
why you
more
couldn't even
robust in
afford the
flavor,
sugar
and
back
it gave
then.
gingerbread a deep, almost
And
smoky
that's what I'm
sweetness.
saying, bro. We don't even appreciate, bro, like the stuff that we're like so accustomed to now because it's like so accessible when it wasn't back then, bro. It wasn't so accessible back then. Like I'm sitting here learning that my mama got all these meals. Obviously from her mom, my great grandmother had the same exact name too. Like same first, middle, and last name. Grandmother and my great grandmother. Same first, middle, and last name. Like, and that's, and they was providing a meal, stretching something like just so everybody had something to eat. And them junks turned into meals that people want that now people only see on Thanksgiving, maybe if the
White
people know how
sugar
to
never
cook it.
could. This gingerbread wasn't the light, fluffy kind seen in suburban cookbooks. It was dense, moist, and spiced with intention. Ginger, cloves, cinnamon, and allspice
Moist,
dancing
he is
together
not
in every
lying
bite.
about that,
It was
bro.
often baked in cast iron pans or old metal trays that had seasoned flavors baked into them. Families made it during fall and winter holidays, especially when guests were expected. It paired beautifully with black coffee or buttermilk, and the leftovers rarely lasted more than a day. For many elders, this was the
And the
first dessert they
leftovers
learned to make,
always
handed
tasted good the
down without
next
a recipe
day.
card.
Like, that's when you know the
You'll know
food is
it's right when the
good, bro.
batter hugs the
When you can eat
spoon,
something the
one
next day
grandmother told
from
her
your
grandchildren.
parents, that's when you
Today,
know
few
that's
people
rocking.
realize just how far back this cake goes. It's not just dessert, it's a direct line to a time when sweetness had to be earned and every ingredient was precious. 11. Oxtail stew. Once dismissed as scraps, oxtails were the kind of cut left for the poor.
And I ain't and that's what I was just about to say. And that's what I only thing I didn't like about the oxtail. You heard me say it was left for the poor, right? It's like it don't be nothing on it to eat. It be a little bit of meat and bones. I like just scooping my food and being able to eat it. So I wasn't ever into oxtails neither. End up tasting them later on. Them junks was rocking. Like she was cooking, so everything he saying, my grandmama cooked, man. My mother cooked, bro. And I just some of the things didn't look good to me, and she wasn't the type to make me eat something. Feel me? Like you gonna eat this food? She just like, I'm gonna make you something else. Like please. All right. If it was like she might make mad dishes anyway. Feel me? And it'd be like, just don't put that on my plate. You give me the rest of the stuff. Like. Then I end up eating it later on. It's like I told you, boy. Like, damn, you ain't never lied.
Too bony, too tough. But in African American kitchens, they were transformed into rich, luxurious stews that rivaled any fine dining roast. This dish is a culinary reversal in its purest form. What others threw away, black cooks elevated into legacy. The oxtails were first seared until caramelized, then braised slowly in a base of onions, garlic, tomato paste, Worcestershire sauce, and broth, sometimes
Worcestershire
flavored with
sauce, I never know how to
allspice,
pronounce
thyme,
it.
bay leaves, or
Worcestershire.
Scotch bonnet peppers, if Caribbean influence was present. The meat
Man.
would cook for hours until it slid off the bone and the marrow melted into the sauce, thickening it with natural richness. The stew was often served over rice or buttered noodles, and it
Man,
wasn't
them
a weeknight
oxtails
dinner.
is huge
It
right
was a
there.
Sunday dish, a
You
show
ain't
of
like the
faith
ones they
and
try to
love.
serve you now. You
And when the
buy.
pot hit the table,
Low
silence
as
followed,
hell. Nothing
a
on
calm
them
that meant
things,
reverence,
man.
not absence. Oxtail stew was a reminder that even in a world that handed you bones, you could still make something unforgettable. 12. Chitlins.
No.
Chitlins. For
Now
many,
this
these
was a
were extra
no for
food.
me when she
It was
cooked
a
this
visceral
shit,
reaction,
yo.
and that's part of their power.
No, bro. This was the biggest no when she. Matter of fact, I was going outside when she cooked this one. Had a house stink. I'm talking about stink, 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 stink. And like I said, my grandmother raised me. I wasn't raised by my mother. Feel me? Like whatever. Like one story, but my mother off the my mother had me young, 15. Then I had my sister right after that at 16. Boom bang, back to back. After that, my grandmother shipped to the um, what you call that? Junk school, whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. When you don't graduate from regular school, you go to, I think it's called vocational school or some junk like that. I forgot the name of it though. Whatever the case may be. And bro, he ended up having siblings, and one of my little sisters came down from where my real ones lived at, and she liked it, them chitlins, bro. Them, from my grandma, them chitlins is crazy. And the crazy part, I never tasted them shits. It's just the smell is not gonna happen. And then they look even worse. I'm like, I'm never
Chitlins,
touching them.
made from pig intestines, are a
Well,
deeply
yeah, I'm Muslim now
polarizing
anyway,
food,
so I would
even
never
within
touch it.
black communities.
But bruh,
But
see,
behind the
I was
controversy lies
natural.
a story of ingenuity, resilience,
Because I
and
was not
sometimes
touching them shits when
trauma.
I was young.
And that's why still
Oh,
matter. During slavery, enslaved Africans were given the least desirable parts of butchered animals: feet, ears, tails, and intestines. Chitlins were cleaned thoroughly, sometimes taking hours, then slow boiled with vinegar, onions, garlic, and spices to reduce odor and tenderize the meat. The process was intense and sacred. In many homes, there was a chitlin queen, the one elder who had the patience and skill to prepare them correctly. For decades, chitlins were served during holidays or special occasions, particularly in the South. They were a delicacy born of deprivation. Eating chitlins today is an act of cultural
man, that potato
continuity,
salad,
an
that
emotional
look like
breadcrumb
next
that
to it.
connects the
That
table to the
paprika.
field, the present to a past that is hard to digest, but necessary to remember. 13. Candied yams. Candied
Man,
yams
those
were
was
never
one of the
just a
ones
side
right
dish.
there.
They were a sugary, sticky crown jewel of any holiday spread. And despite their name, most didn't use actual yams, but sweet potatoes, a crop with deep African roots. In West Africa, yams were central to ceremonial meals, and enslaved Africans preserved that tradition in the New World using sweet potatoes instead. The preparation was as thoughtful as it was indulgent. Thick rounds of sweet potato were layered in a buttered baking dish, then drenched in brown sugar,
See, I thought
cinnamon,
those sweet
nutmeg,
potatoes was the
and
same
melted
thing.
butter.
That's crazy.
Some cooks added orange juice, vanilla, or even a splash of bourbon. Then they were
That's
baked,
crazy.
not just until soft, but until the syrup thickened and caramelized at the edges. What made this dish special wasn't just its taste, it was its timing. Candied yams were almost always made in advance, which meant the smell teased you
Facts.
for hours before dinner. And once on the plate, they always touched something: the greens, the stuffing, the turkey,
Yeah.
blending sweet with
Yo,
savory
and I
together.
was like that growing up. I did not like my food touching. It was just, I know my grandmother probably was good living with me. Like, boy, yo, you are so picky. And I'm like, yo, nah, but them junks were rocking and everything great together, man. She was like, always 100% right, man.
In a uniquely soulful way. They weren't dessert, they were memory. The kind of memory that made your plate full even before you took a bite. 14. Red drink. You'd see it before you'd ask.
Like Kool
At
Aid.
every family reunion, church picnic, or Juneteenth celebration, a tall pitcher or punch
And
bowl
that's crazy
filled with
because
something
just getting hit the
red.
Juneteenth.
Not cherry, not strawberry, just red. Red drink.
Not
While
cherry,
it might
not
seem like a
strawberry,
casual
red
beverage,
drink.
red drink carries symbolic weight in African American culture. Its roots trace back to West African hibiscus teas like bissap or zobo, bright red
Biscuits,
herbal
y'all don't know
drinks
nothing about
used in
biscuits, man.
ceremonies and community gatherings. During slavery and afterward, those traditions were adapted into sweetened red beverages made with Kool-Aid, red soda, or fruit punches. And while the ingredients varied, the color remained sacred. Why red? Some say it symbolized the bloodshed in the fight for freedom. Others say it simply represented
It's
joy,
good to
the kind of
learn
joy you had to
why.
make for yourself when nothing else was sweet. No recipe was universal. Some families added pineapple juice or lemon lime soda. Others steeped hibiscus flowers or used cranberry concentrate.
Y'all
But
know
one
nothing
thing was
about this
consistent.
right here,
It was
yo.
cold, it was
I don't know
bright,
if y'all do,
and
but
it was
man,
hungry
this shit
together.
right here is
Red
hit
drink wasn't
different.
just a thirst quencher. It was
Mm-mm.
the unofficial flag of a culture that knew how to celebrate, even in struggle.
Alhamdulillah.
15. Grits with cheese and butter. Before
I
breakfast
don't eat
bowls became
cheese,
trendy, there was a humble
but
pot of
grits.
grits on nearly every black kitchen stove in the South.
Want some
Coarse ground
sugar?
corn simmered with patience and care, stirred slowly to avoid lumps, seasoned lightly with salt, and finished with generous amounts of butter and sometimes shredded cheddar, giving it body and depth. Grits weren't expensive, but they were sacred.
Mm-mm.
They were the first thing you tasted in the morning and the last thing served to guests at the table. Paired with fried eggs, sausage, or
Woo!
just eaten plain,
Talk.
grits filled you up and warmed you from the inside
Yes,
out.
they do.
But here's the twist. Grits weren't just breakfast food. They were dinner, too. Shrimp and grits, for example, originated as a simple fisherman's meal along.
Yo, this is right here, bro. Y'all gotta watch this, bro. He not just telling you about the lost recipes, neither. He putting you hit to where, when, and why it came, bro. Like, damn, he said grits wasn't just breakfast, it was dinner too. What, shrimp and grits? Oh, fish and grits? It's different. Damn, do your homework on fish and grits, y'all hear me?
the South Carolina coast. In some households, leftover grits were poured into pans to set overnight, then sliced and fried crisp the next day. Nothing wasted, everything used. And for children who grew up in those kitchens, the sound of the spoon scraping the bottom of the pot was the signal that breakfast and the day had officially begun. 16. Peach cobbler. Peach cobbler isn't just dessert, it's a warm embrace from history. The story of this dish begins in the kitchens of the Deep South, where African American cooks
Mason jar.
transformed seasonal fruit and humble pantry staples into acts of love. When fresh peaches were available in summer, families would pick them by the bushel from backyard trees, roadside stands, or farms where they worked. Sugar was precious. Flour was rationed during wartime. But somehow,
Damn.
there was always enough to make cobbler. The cobbled crust was more rustic
And
than
then he keeps saying that too. Like that sugar was scarce back then, bro. Like they really claim that shit was like a commodity hard to get, bro. That's why when you cook the other, they were using molasses for sweetening.
pie, sometimes spooned over like dumplings, other times carefully rolled into golden perfection. Seasoned with cinnamon, nutmeg, and a touch of
Yeah.
lemon juice to brighten the sweetness, the cobbler would bubble in a cast iron pan until the fruit caramelized around the edges. You could hear it hiss.
And he saying he calling these recipes,
Cobbler
bro. He said lost recipes, bro. So is it true? I don't know that the new generation don't cook as good as our grandparents, bro, and great grandparents, bro. Like that is the hard question. And for anybody that watches, whether it's male or female, male, do you if you got one of your counterpart, like, and don't just say like she could cook though, bro. Is she cooking these generational meals that came from our grandparents, bro? Right.
served hot, often with a melting scoop of ice cream or just a splash of cold cream. But more than anything,
Cold
it
cream.
was ceremonial, made for Sunday dinners, homecomings, repasts, and even first dates, a way of saying,
Damn.
you are home now. For many, the memory of that golden crust and syrupy filling lives longer than the recipe itself. And the best part? The corner piece, always a little more crust, always
Hey.
claimed by the eldest at the table.
Damn, man, he giving out the sauce with it. Like this is the crazy part, bro. Whoever put that like up there know where he coming from right now, bro. Like, yeah, they keep saying. I mean, keep saying this. Lost recipes. Why are these recipes lost, man? Like, was already thin on family because of how they, you know what I mean? Like, and now, like, getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Like, man.
Bone soup. This dish is a masterclass
Really
in thrift. Corner piece, always a little more crust, always claimed by the eldest at the table. 17. Neckbone soup. This dish is a masterclass in thrift, flavor, and storytelling. Neck bones, often overlooked and undervalued, were once the
Mm-hmm.
cuts that white butchers tossed aside. But black cooks knew better. They understood that flavor lived in the bone, and that the long, slow simmer of a pot of neck bone soup could turn poverty into poetry. The recipe varied by region. Some added potatoes, carrots, and celery. Others used cabbage, beans, or corn. What remained constant was the method: browning the bones first, then simmering them with aromatics until the broth became rich and silky. The meat would eventually pull off the bone in soft, tender ribbons. Spices were simple: salt, pepper, garlic, maybe bay leaf. But the flavor was profound. In many families, this was a weekday dinner, quiet, unfussy, and deeply nourishing. For elders raised during the Great Depression or in post-war cities, neckbone soup was a reminder that making do didn't mean giving up flavor.
And he said
It meant honoring every
40s.
piece of the
That
animal,
let me
every
know,
drop of
man.
labor.
R.P.
In some
man.
homes,
My
children were
mom,
taught
she
to
was
save
born
the
in
neckbones
40s,
for
so
hard
she was
times.
like
But
there.
in truth, this dish was made whenever you needed comfort. 18. Black-eyed pea fritters, aka akara. Before canned beans filled grocery store shelves, African American families made fresh black-eyed peas by soaking, peeling, and grinding them by hand. The result? Akara, also known as black-eyed pea fritters. This dish has deep West African roots, particularly in Senegal, where similar fritters were, and still are, served street-side with spicy sauces and bread. In the South, these fritters evolved into a beloved appetizer or side, especially in coastal regions with strong Gullah influence. The beans were blended into a paste with onion, garlic, and salt, then deep fried into crispy, golden rounds. The outside was crunchy, the inside soft and airy. Some versions included chopped peppers or scallions. They were often served with a dipping sauce, sometimes hot sauce, other times a tangy relish.
Hot sauce,
Akara
boy,
was
you
more
know
than
that.
just a snack. It was a cultural handshake between continents, a tangible reminder that African foodways endured even when names and languages were stripped away. Eating them today is like time traveling with taste. One bite, and suddenly you're connected to something older, deeper, and beautifully unbroken. 19. Baked macaroni and cheese, the real one.
The real one.
Boxed version. In
You
Black
hear?
American households, baked mac and cheese was not a quick fix.
My boy said the real one too, not that BS. You hear me? Not that BS, bro. The real deal, holy shmi field.
It was an art form, often reserved for holidays.
I don't eat mac and cheese
or
neither
special
though.
guests. It wasn't just about pasta and cheese. It was about structure, richness, and love layered between elbow macaroni. The key was the cheese sauce, a roux of butter and flour, slowly blended with milk, and infused with sharp cheddar, Colby, or even Velveeta, depending on the cook. The mixture was folded with cooked macaroni, layered in a buttered baking dish, and topped with more cheese or breadcrumbs. Some families added eggs for firmness. Others used evaporated milk to make it custardy. Then came the baking. No stovetop shortcuts. The goal was a creamy interior with a slightly crispy golden top, and a smell that pulled people from across the house. There was an unspoken rule: only one person made the mac and cheese at any gathering. That honor was earned, not assigned. And if you took the last corner piece, the one with the crispy cheese crust, you better pray there was another pan because Auntie was watching. 20. Buttermilk biscuits. If sweet potato pie was legacy and greens were wisdom, then buttermilk biscuits were daily grace.
And I'm telling you, if you know, you know. Doing your homework on no utensils. Telling you, yo. My mother sopping them things up off the plate, man. Like, real talk. Anything with her hands. Killing it, too. And you just never knew, like, man, like, damn, man. Like, my grandmother been through it, man. Like, miss my mom, boy.
African American kitchens, biscuits were made at sunrise, before school, before church, before anyone else was even awake.
Whoa, man, early. That's why I'm an early bird, bruh.
Just hands.
You get the worm, man. You gotta wake up.
Flour,
You gotta beat up,
baking
man. Ain't
powder,
no
salt,
time to
cold lard or butter, and tangy butter.
whatever you doing.
Folded gently, but never overworked.
Sleep later,
Rolled
bro.
out and cut with drinking glasses, baked until golden, split open, and filled with whatever was on hand. Jam,
Now, the last
sausage,
few days, I
eggs,
probably been
or
sleeping for
just
2
butter.
hours. Real
The
talk.
texture? Soft on the inside, flaky on the outside, with a bottom that crisped on cast iron like it had been kissed by fire. These biscuits were used to mop up gravy, sandwich leftover meat, or simply comfort a child after a bad day. Some were dropped by spoon, others rolled into perfect rounds. And when you saw that biscuit tin come out, usually dented, maybe wrapped in a kitchen towel, you knew something sacred was about to be served.
He ain't talking about these canned ones, bro. And this is all off the muscle they cooking shit.
Exactly,
All off the muscle, you hear me? Oh, everything.
It wasn't technique, it was time. 21. Sorghum syrup on everything. Before maple syrup found its way into supermarkets, and long before corn syrup
You
flooded
used to get them
American
biscuits
tables,
right there and put this right on top of them Jones.
this dark,
A bowl
rich,
of
and
biscuits.
slightly bitter syrup was once a staple sweetener in rural black households across the South. Grown and milled by hand, sorghum came from tall, grassy stalks and was boiled down into a thick molasses-like liquid that carried hints of earth, smoke, and caramel. Its flavor was deeper than sugar. Its texture was sticky, like a story you couldn't shake. Sorghum syrup wasn't just poured over biscuits or pancakes. It was drizzled
Told
with
you.
grits, used in marinades.
Told you,
brushed
bro.
on
And I
meat,
told somebody
served
that,
soft
bro.
with sugar
Go in the
and
grits.
In many black communities, especially in Appalachia and rural Alabama or Georgia,
Georgia,
sorghum was the go-to for sweetness during the Depression and war years when refined sugar was either rationed or unaffordable. You might remember an old metal can of it in your grandparents' pantry, dark and dented with a rusted lid. But inside was a taste that carried generations. Today, sorghum syrup has become rare in stores, but for those who grew up with it, the taste is unforgettable. It was sweet, yes, but never shallow. It had depth, like the people who cooked with it. 22. Liver and onions. Liver and onions is the kind of dish.
This was one of the dishes she couldn't get me to eat.
You loved it or you couldn't stand the smell. But no matter where you landed, it was a rite of passage. During times of scarcity, organ meats weren't just a budget option. They were the option. But for many black families, especially during the 1940s to 70s, liver became a symbol of resourceful parenting, nourishing, affordable, and surprisingly flavorful when done right. 40s. The liver, usually beef or pork, was soaked in milk or buttermilk to temper its metallic bite, then seasoned, dredged in flour, and pan-fried in a skillet with hot grease. Sliced onions were cooked down in the drippings until soft and sweet, layered on top like a savory crown. Served with white rice or mashed potatoes, the dish was bold, tender, and intensely aromatic. Children often wrinkled their noses until that first bite.
That's the crazy part. I never tasted it. I'm still finding my nose because I never tasted it.
It was about presence.
I just told her I don't want
It meant mom or grandma had worked with what she had and still managed to put something hot and healing on the table.
She always
it wasn't
did,
fancy.
Man.
It was necessary. And that's what
every
made
one
it
of these 25 dishes he's saying she
23,
cooked.
Chicken gizzards. Another
I ain't eat this one either.
Chicken gizzards were proof that
I'm saying everything I didn't eat, bro. And the crazy part is, like he just said with the liver, he was talking about them with them. He like, man, a lot of the time the kids had their nose frowned about this to their first bite, and she used to tell her, she never made me eat nothing I didn't want to eat. However, she used to say, just taste it, man. I was like, And sometimes, eventually I would, or later on, I eventually ate it. After she passed, I'm like, damn, when she was still alive, so I could tell it was good. When she was, I finally taste something like, oh, it's smack. And she's like, boy, I tried to tell you. Like, anything I'm cooking is that.
The gizzard, a muscular part of a
However,
chicken's digestive tract, was cleaned thoroughly, boiled until tender, then either deep fried to crispy perfection or simmered in gravy until melt in your mouth soft. Fried gizzards became a soul food staple. Crunchy on the outside, chewy inside, they were seasoned with cayenne, garlic powder, paprika, and served in paper bags at fish traps, gas stations, or community picnics. Sometimes eaten with toothpicks, dipped in hot sauce or mustard, they were snack food, survival food, and celebration food all at once. In some homes, gizzards were saved for the cook, the person in charge of the bird, because they were considered special, a reward. Not everyone could handle the texture, but those who could swore by it. In fact, if you saw someone at the kitchen counter quietly eating fried gizzards before dinner was served, you knew they were royalty in that household. 24. Cornbread dressing. This is stuffing. Let's be clear. Cornbread dressing is its own sacred dish with its own rhythm, rules, and deep Southern black heritage. It starts with cornbread, made from scratch, a few days ahead, crumbled into a large bowl. Then came the aromatics: celery, onions, sage, sometimes bell peppers or boiled eggs. Chicken broth was poured in by feel, not measure. A couple of beaten eggs added body. The mixture was poured into a casserole dish and baked until golden brown on top, slightly crisp at the edges and soft in the center. It smelled like Thanksgiving, like home, like the moment the whole house paused to say grace. In many families, there was a quiet rivalry over whose dressing was best. Some added oysters, some used cream of chicken soup, others guarded their recipe like state secrets. But what mattered most
That's why you had to stand. That's what I'm saying. If your lady ain't had that grandparent, yo, she could stand over and watch cook. They ain't got the drip or the sauce. That's why these recipes are forgotten. And everything, yo. Watch. I'm gonna teach my little man how to cook. Watch, yo.
It had to hold together, but
I'm
still
gonna start
not on
getting
the
busy.
tongue.
Watch.
And it had to be made by someone who understood memory, not just measurements. Because this dish wasn't just about food, it was about ritual. It told you what day it was, who was home, and who had come back just for this. 25. Blackberry cobbler. We end where so many memories begin. At the table, stained fingers, and a cast iron dish cooling on the windowsill. Blackberry cobbler wasn't always planned. It came from opportunity, when wild berries were ripe on the vine, growing along fences, ditches, or even the churchyard. Children would pick them in old coffee cans, returning home with scratched arms and purple-stained hands. The berries were rinsed, sometimes barely, tossed with sugar and a squeeze of lemon, then poured into a buttered dish. The topping might have been a biscuit dough dropped on top, or a lattice crust if someone had time. Then into the oven until the fruit bubbled and the crust browned. Cobbler was meant to be eaten hot, but the first bite, tart and sweet, messy and magnificent, made you forget everything else. You'd fight over the corner pieces, and the leftovers, if there were any, they were breakfast. Blackberry cobbler was a summer memory you could taste. It didn't last long. That was the point. The sweetness was fleeting, just like the season, but it stayed with you forever. These were 25 African-American recipes you'll wish you knew sooner. Not just because they taste incredible.
That's what the molasses right there, because they ain't had the sugar on standby like they needed. And if they did, they had to save it for something else.
If these dishes reminded you of your grandmother's kitchen, a family gathering, or a time long gone, then you understand why these meals matter. So don't just keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to remember, or someone who's never known. And if you're hungry for more history you can taste, hit that subscribe button. Because here on this channel, we bring the past back to the table, one forgotten recipe at a time. Leave a comment below. Which of these dishes do you remember? Which one are you trying next? We read every one. And now, if you thought these were powerful, wait until you see the recipes that were almost lost forever. Click here to watch that next.
Yeah, I ain't even had that queued up for the videos, but I gotta go straight to that, B.
Eric here.
Man, I can't. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna go to the next video I had queued up. I don't want to watch two full ones back to back. But damn, he said lost forever. He might say something like, but my grandma was born in the 40s.
That shaped America. But here's the hidden truth.
And she was raised by her mom, my great grandma.
What's on the plate? Washington's soldiers weren't.
I don't know where my great grandmother was born. She had to be born in Probably like the 20s, probably.
Thin fire-cooked stews that barely.
She had to be born in the 20s.
Bread
My grandmother
so
was born in the 40s.
Soaked just to chew. Yet these 25
Yeah, I know she was like
meals
16,
weren't
you
just
know.
rations. They carried men
Definitely.
through blistering marches, freezing winters, and nights where the only question was, will we make it to morning? Stick around, because some of these meals are going to shock you. And by the end, you'll see how simple, gritty food literally helped fuel the birth of a nation. 1. Beef and pork hash stew. Picture a ragged campfire on a cold Pennsylvania night. Soldiers wrapped in tattered blankets huddled close, their breath turning white in the air. Into a battered iron pot.
And she was born in the teens. Great grandma was born in the teens. Boy, 19 something.
If they were lucky. This was hash stew, the soldier's lifeline. It wasn't fancy, and often it wasn't even good. But it was hot, it was filling, and it gave.
She was born 1916.
To shoulder a musket at dawn.
My grandma was born 1940.
This wasn't just about flavor. Salted meat kept for months, making it one of the few things that didn't rot on long marches. Soldiers sometimes joked that the meat was tougher than their boots, but boiling it into a stew softened it enough to chew. With a hunk of stale
bread no, yeah, she wasn't born 1919. I'm bugging.
Served in a tin cup. Here's the breadcrumb for you. In 2025, making a simple beef and pork hash at home.
I'm lying. My great grandma wasn't born in 1916. I'm lying. She was born in.
That's barely over $1 a serving, cheaper than fast food, and honestly, way more satisfying. But the real question is, what happened on nights when there was no meat at all? That's where our next dish comes in, and it's one you might not expect. 2. Peas porridge with bread crust. You've probably heard the old nursery rhyme, peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold. Well, for Revolutionary War soldiers, that wasn't a rhyme. It was dinner.
She was born in 1932.
Dried peas boiled into a thick paste.
She was born like in 1930s.
Maybe stir in pork fat if fortune smiled.
Yeah, my grandmother definitely was born in 1948. My great grandmother had her at 16.
Soldiers didn't just eat it fresh. They ate it the next day, and the day after that, leftover porridge hardened into a cold, rubbery lump, and men carved chunks off like clay.
Yeah.
To make it
I got that sauce in our blood.
Crusts, turning scraps into something that at least filled the belly. It wasn't gourmet. It was survival. A soldier could march 10 miles on this simple porridge because peas were cheap, plentiful, and packed with protein. In winter encampments like Valley Forge, it often meant the difference between staggering into battle or collapsing from hunger. Now, fast forward to 2025, a bag of dried peas, about $2. Add water, some bread heels, and maybe a drizzle of oil. And you've got 4 hearty servings for less than 75 cents.
Dang, one of these little funky $2 bills. And them junks was hard to come by. You just heard say they were going to battle, about to damn near die from starvation. One of these funky things was hard to come by back in the day, man. That's why I don't spend this, y'all.
Now imagine the
I don't even know how I got in my pocket. It wasn't my wallet. I seen them drinking in my pocket today. I was pulling something outside. Even though they ain't worth nothing, they still make these junks. Everybody think to hold on to these for some reason.
But here's the thing.
Like when I used to see my grandmother with them, I'm like, damn, bro, them junks special.
To make it palatable,
still
soldiers
get
turned
this
it
$2
into
bill.
chowder. They'd soak the fish overnight to leach out some of the salt, then boil it in a camp kettle with onions, roots, or milk, if they were lucky enough to have it. Thickening it? That came from ship's biscuit. Rock-hard slabs of baked flour that could last for years without spoiling. Dunked and softened in hot broth, those biscuits transformed from tooth-breaking bricks into dumpling-like fillers. It wasn't fine dining, but for weary men, it was warmth, salt, and fuel. A bowl of chowder meant protein to fight disease, calories to survive the march, and a taste of the ocean that reminded many of home. Now, let's pull this forward. In 2025, you can still make a salted fish chowder for less than $10 that feeds an entire
they talking about, these ain't from, like, our ancestors.
Not survival rations.
The first one was.
It wasn't fish, or milk, or onions, when the cupboard was truly bare. That's when soldiers turned to the humblest meal of all, Fire cake gruel.
Oh,
4.
yeah.
Fire cake.
Never heard of these.
When rations ran out and supply wagons never came, soldiers had to improvise. Enter the most desperate dish of all, fire cake. It wasn't really cake at all. It was just flour mixed with water, slapped onto a rock, and baked beside the fire until it hardened into a flat, tasteless brick. Add some dried peas boiled into mush,
Never.
and
They
you
were
had
tearing them
thin
peas
gruel
up,
that
boy.
counted as food. At Valley Forge, men survived for weeks on this. Letters from soldiers describe gnawing on fire cake so hard it cracked teeth, or choking it down without salt or fat. Sometimes the dough was undercooked, leaving the inside gummy and raw. Other times it burned black on the outside, but they ate it anyway because it
had
was
to.
fire cake or starve. And here's the brutal truth. Fire cake wasn't enough. Malnutrition set in, diseases spread, and the lack of proper food nearly broke Washington's army. But here's the miracle. They endured. A bite of flour and water gave just enough energy to hold the line until better rations arrived. Fast forward to 2025, flour still costs pennies. You could make a skillet full of fire cakes for under $1. Toss in peas or beans, and you've stretched it into a survival meal for a whole family. But survival had another sweet trick. One that turned rock-hard bread into something a little more bearable with the help of molasses. 5. Hardtack and molasses dunk. If you've ever
Never
seen a
heard
piece
of
of
this.
hardtack, you know why soldiers called it tooth dollars, or even molar bread.
Damn.
These were simple flour and water biscuits baked.
Yeah, we're gonna leave this one. We're gonna leave this.
So dry they could last.
I'll leave this for showing out,
Drop one on the
speed.
ground and it might
This ain't for
shatter
my,
into
you know what I
Try
mean?
biting into the plane, and you'd risk a cracked tooth. So how did revolution?
You're not risking no cracked tooth to eat no hard
A
ass.
little molasses, when it was available, turned misery into something almost sweet. The sticky,
Crummy
softened
looking.
biscuit.
I was about to say looking part-time. She look like a fucking.
Men push through exhaustion. Sometimes soldiers crumbled hardtack into coffee or stew, but molasses was the true savior when rations grew bleak. Here's a twist. Hardtack wasn't just food, it was currency. Soldiers sometimes traded it, carved it into tokens, or even scratched messages into the biscuits to pass the time. Imagine being so hungry that you looked at a slab of molasses-dipped brick and thought, that's dessert. Now in 2025, the idea sounds strange, but here's the hack. You can buy a giant jug of molasses for under $6, pair it with homemade biscuits, and you've got a budget snack that costs pennies per serving. But stew and sweets weren't always on hand. Sometimes the only option was something thin, bland, and barely worthy of the name soup. 6. Bread and butter soup with milk. Now imagine a cold
Bread and butter. Yeah, we gonna leave. I ain't had that queued up. Damn, that is ill though. I'm gonna finish watching that one on my own time. Word up. That's crazy.
Most drivers don't even know they're illegal. From lights that attract cops instantly to gadgets banned nationwide, these are the accessories you should never risk putting on your car. Today, we'll reveal 10 illegal car accessories that could cost you thousands. And number 10 is so common, police are trained to spot it on sight. Without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Accessory number 15, tinted windows. Let's start with something that seems harmless, but can land you in serious trouble. A very dark window tint can make it harder.
Yeah, but a lot of cars like that, they come tinted. A lot of them do. Now, a lot of them will come tinted, but the first two ones, the driver and the passenger won't. But the rest of them windows will be tinted, and that front one wouldn't either. Like, so the first three, but the rest of the car be tinted crazy.
To see when driving at night. Every state has different tint laws, and police officers in some states carry a special tool for measuring how much light passes through the windows to see whether owners are breaking the law. Illinois tint laws prohibit side and front window tint, except when the driver has some kind of medical condition which requires tinted windows. But here's what's crazy. It seems to be selectively enforced, as a 5% limo tint is ignored by Leos in some areas, but get a fix-it ticket in the town next door. The safety argument is real though. Contrary to popular belief, tinting isn't illegal because it makes it difficult for the police to see inside your car during traffic stops. The primary reason is that it makes it difficult for you to see out. Some states require 70% light transmission on front windows, while others allow as low as 35%. The tint meter cops use can actually be fooled by cheap aftermarket films that change opacity based on angle. Some drivers think they're being clever, but modern enforcement has caught on to these tricks. What makes this worse is that tint shops often don't warn customers about crossing state lines. Your legal California tint becomes illegal the moment you drive into Nevada. But if tint laws seem confusing, wait until you hear what's illegal about something every car needs. Accessory number 14, mufflers. This one that blows people's minds. Aftermarket mufflers can be completely illegal, even if they're not loud. All states in the US have either banned or set rules in place to mitigate the use of obnoxiously loud exhaust systems. But it's not just about noise.
I ain't gonna lie, I don't like that loud ass muffler junk neither though. I'm just like, that'd be crazy. Now them chargers sound perfect. Like, man, the challenges all on. But like, the ones that be putting on them Hondas and junk, like back in the day, them junks used to be super loud, bro. I used to be hating that junk.
In California, every motor vehicle must be equipped with an adequate muffler in constant operation. And no muffler or exhaust system shall be equipped with a cutout bypass or similar device. Simply equipping certain types of mufflers is enough to land you in trouble. Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Montana, Michigan, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Maine, and Connecticut use an objective method to determine whether the exhaust noise is too loud, while the others simply leave it up to the officer to declare it makes excessive and unusual noise. Here's the kicker. Even straight-through mufflers that meet noise requirements can be illegal if they don't meet emission standards. Your sweet-sounding Flowmaster might be breaking federal law without you even knowing it. Many performance shops won't tell you about CARB compliance when installing aftermarket exhaust systems. They get their money, you get the federal violation notice in the mail months later. The worst part? Some mufflers are legal when installed, but become illegal during routine maintenance if shop mechanics don't reinstall them exactly to specification. Speaking of things that seem innocent but aren't. Accessory number 13, license plate accessories. This one shocks people because most license plate covers and other accessories are illegal, even theft protection covers. Even license plate frames are only okay under very strict guidelines.
They are, yo.
Nothing too thick or with decor that juts out over the license. Any plate frame that covers any part of the numbers, letters, or state name is illegal and can receive a ticket. That dealership frame advertising where you bought your car. If it covers even